Check the description for more game reviews, playlists, and videos. There are very few God games around in recent memory, or at least I haven't seen many. Scribblenauts seem fun, albeit predictable and short-lived, and Ubisoft's From Dust looked like a unique kind of God game with a lot of potential. Unfortunately, I didn't buy either. With the anticlimax of RPG Maker 3, I began to stray away from God games. I realized they were either too fucking confusing or low budget to do anything in the case of RPG Maker 2, or too fucking limiting in what the player is allowed to do in the case of RPG Maker 3. I suppose Minecraft would be a good game to try, but I'd probably get bored of it once I run out of things to do. In short, God games are great if done right, but can get boring very quickly. A God game is a game that gives the player near total creative control over the game world. One God game that I never get tired of is LittleBigPlanet, a God among God games. Its lack of programming gates gave the game a creative challenge along with the freedom to do as you please, and LittleBigPlanet 2 took that creative challenge to a whole new level. Allow me to be perfectly clear, I like LittleBigPlanet 2. In fact, I love LittleBigPlanet 2. LittleBigPlanet 2 is the shit. It doesn't quite make my top 5 of all time, but it's definitely up there. God, aka generic Mr. Protagonist in LittleBigPlanet, is Sackboy, who has had his written name changed to Sackthing in LittleBigPlanet 2 to account for gender neutrality. Sackboy's adventures in LittleBigPlanet take him across Craftworld and the Cosmos, leading an army of Sackbots against the evil Negativitron. While the plot is not necessarily original, it is executed well, and each stage overtly shows off the fact that Media Molecule has excellent level designers. Each of the support characters, Da Vinci, Eve, and Clive to name a few, have very distinct personalities, and I actually cared about all of them. They also each have a natural arc when the Negativitron points out all of their flaws and uses their respective weaknesses to overpower them. Also, the Negativitron actually feels pretty evil.
What's that?
He literally goes around destroying everything in his path, women, children, houses, dinosaurs, star systems, etc., but he doesn't seem to have much motivation besides just being plain evil. During the introductory level, you immediately get a feel for what has changed mechanics-wise since LittleBigPlanet, and the urgency of the threat of the Negativitron, not to mention the personalities of Avalon Centrifuge and Larry Da Vinci, the leaders of the Alliance.
Yes?
I am Avalon Centrifuge.
Indeed you are, old man. My name is... Larry Da Vinci.
The intro level sets the tone immensely. Once the Negativitron comes to wreck your shit, you're immediately cast into the first few experiments. Simple challenges to teach players new and old the basics of the game world. These tests range from simple jumping to more complex and novel mechanics like using the grappling hook. After defeating your first boss, a monkey wrecking ball thing, you get sent off to Victoria von Bathysphere's workshop, which gets attacked by the evil Negativitron, who has obviously just woken up from his nap. In an act of rage, he decides to fuck up Victoria's workshop in a definite shit just got real sequence.
Years of building and baking down the plug hole. Was it me? What did I do wrong? What didn't I do right?
During the stage you can loll about, and take your time getting used to the new Grabinator. However, towards the end of the stage, Negativitron comes back to finish the job from earlier, dropping off several of his minions. After you defeat the big karate kicking dude, you destroy Victoria's train to stop it from crashing, which Victoria doesn't seem too happy about. You then gain access to the Cakeinator, a Creatinator that shoots out cakes. You spend some time fighting through corruption and meanies that plague her kitchen until you reach the Brainwave machine. After playing through an amazing stage, you make it to the machine and pull the plug on it for good, stopping the Negativitron from making more meanies. Before you can destroy the lab for good, you must fight a giant electricity-shooting, corruption-tainted spider. Victoria is clearly not happy to see her laboratory go, but we don't have time to dwell, folks. Da Vinci enlightens the group to the whereabouts of the missing Sackbots.
The factory of a better tomorrow! To the factory!
Chasing after them, Da Vinci and Sackboy travel to the factory of a better tomorrow, which is run by the rather appropriately depressing Clive Handful.
If only there was someone to deliver me from this putrid drop of tribulation. Oh, hello. My name's Clive. Clive Handful. Welcome to the factory of a better tomorrow, such as it is.
Clive explains that during somewhat better times,
Well, things could have been better, I suppose.
he created the factory and used the Sackbots to make calendars until the Negativitron came in and fucked shit up, brainwashing and enslaving all the Sackbots in the process. Sackboy must go through the factory and liberate the Sackbots in order to form an army against the Negativitron. The subsequent part of the game is mostly spent showing off the sophistication of the Sackbot programming, how they can have fear, infatuation, or just blindly follow you, and how all their programming can be switched on a dime. During the sequence in which they fear me, I kind of feel like Sackboy's bullying the Sackbots into submission, making them press switches, using them as basketballs, etc. In the process though, Sackboy saving their lives and they will grow to love him, so the damn robots prove to be quite fickle, really. You spend much time rescuing some more and even get scored based on how many you successfully get to the end of the level. You're told, after rescuing them, that a giant security guard turkey, Copernicus, has been brainwashed. The guard turkey chases after you to stop you from taking the Sackbots to safety. Just when you think the turkey is gone for good, it rises from the dead and corners you. Clive, in an anxiety-induced act of courage, saves the day, destroying the turkey and rescuing Sackboy and all the Sackbots.
I never doubted you, Sackboy.
Or me.
Suppose.
Now that you have your army, you're off to Avalonia, named after the apparently narcissistic Avalon centrifuge, to train for the battle against the Negativitron.
Oh, marvelous. Hello, science face.
That's Avalon centrifuge to you.
Avalon sends Sackboy through some more training challenges focused on the versatility of the Controlinator, from simply keeping Sackboy put in elevators to allowing Sackboy full control over robotic animals. The Controlinator becomes a key tool in the fight against the Negativitron. First, you command the Robobun, a bunny with nuclear hopping powers. Then you take control of the Mecha Pup, which has no real usefulness outside of the current mission. Then you take control of a robotic gerbil, which is my personal favorite because you can literally do anything with it. Anything. The gerbil gets around by farting, and in doing so gains enough momentum to smash through solid matter. Next up is the camel, which shoots lasers out of its mouth. This portion shows off some of the game's new and truly amazing Controlinator mechanics. About midway through the stage, the Negativitron attacks once more to remind everyone that he's not fucking around. Using the camel, you must shoot your way through the base to an escape craft. But of course, as you are about to escape, the Negativitron destroys the ship's plasma whatsits. You must then rescue the Sackbots, which were marooned throughout the base as a result. You fly about the base on a bee, which has a magnetic ability and can fire lasers from its stinger. At the end, huge spaceship launches and Sackboy and his trusty bee must protect it from a giant laser-shooting battleship. In the end, the Alliance's spaceship crashes. With their ship destroyed, Sackboy, Clive, Avalon, Da Vinci, and Victoria, who has showed up rather late to the party, must find an inventor named Herbert Higginbotham to repair the spaceship and aid them in their battle. This takes Sackboy and Clive to Eve's Asylum for the mentally alternative, where Higginbotham is being held. You meet Eve, who shows you the destruction that the Negativitron has wrought. His meanies have set everything ablaze and Sackboy must put out the fires using a fire extinguishing Creatinator. You fight a plant monster with flame for a tongue, and once you defeat it, the asylum is returned to paradise. In a somewhat odd sequence, you take on a meanie infection inside Higginbotham's body to make him slightly less crazy. Within Higginbotham is probably one of the most difficult bosses in the game. At least, it was for me. Once you defeat the infection, Higginbotham makes only marginally more sense, but just enough to repair huge spaceships. Proud, like always, after recent successes, Avalon makes yet another speech of his great deeds to come. Negativitron, clearly not giving a shit, takes the time to abduct him, setting the stakes even higher than they were before. Higginbotham explains that Avalon is still alive, but they must hurry to the Negativitron's homeworld, the Cosmos, to strike while they have the advantage and to rescue Avalon. You get some time to rest while Huge Spaceship is traveling, and in that time you can play some minigames and contemplate the human condition. During this time, you also get to play around with some gravity and magnet mechanics that become crucial in the coming levels. While Sackboy's fucking around, the Negativitron comes to wreck your shit once more because he didn't get enough catharsis from it the first time. Sackboy escapes, releasing a few escape pods holding the things that the Alliance will need for the coming battle. Soon after Sackboy escapes, however, the ship crashes and Da Vinci sends Sackboy a message saying that he and the other Alliance members have been trapped behind a force field. Sackboy, with the help of his trusty Robobun, releases Huge Spaceship and consequently the Alliance members from the force field. You mount your trusty B once more to fight your way through the underground to get to Negativitron's lair. In one of the final sequences, the Sackbots wage battle against the meanies. Negativitron explains that he embodies the flaws in each of the Alliance members, and because they are so corrupted by such flaws as vanity, they cannot truly defeat him. Sackboy, however, is able to take on the Negativitron, presumably due to his inherent neutrality of emotion, personality, and gender. Along with the efforts of his team, Sackboy defeats the Negativitron. The team, yes, even Avalon, realizes that they couldn't have done it without each other, and they all go off to live happily ever after. Stephen Fry then recaps the point of the story in the game, to let one's imagination be captured and nurtured into greatness to be harnessed within LittleBigPlanet. LittleBigPlanet 2 is actually somewhat symbolic, from Clive Hanforth's line, "Deliver me," to the Negativitron's "I am all of you" revelation.
Insecurity, short tempers, and self-absorption. You created me. If you destroy me, you destroy yourselves.
LittleBigPlanet 2 offers some pretty deep metaphors. One in particular is something that I touched on before. Sackboy by nature is completely neutral. It's literally a generic doll given to the player so that he or she can project his or her personality onto it. Having no personality means Sackboy also has no flaws, and thus, when the Negativitron gives the revelation that he is the manifestation of each person's corruption and flaws, Sackboy is inherently exempt from that. Such an exemption gives Sackboy the power necessary to overcome the Negativitron and subdue the evil within each of the Alliance members and the world. This is probably the only case in which being generic and having no personality is actually empowering. Of course, the appeal with LittleBigPlanet 2 lies with its creative function, which is actually very intuitive. The inclusion of programming gates makes the game somewhat more accessible to the layperson, and there are literally dozens of tutorials to teach newcomers everything they need to know when getting into the creative vibe. Excusing all the minor things you can't control in LittleBigPlanet, when it comes down to it, the only thing LittleBigPlanet 2 can't do is give you inspiration. Which is actually quite crucial, come to think of it. Surely there are online stages and the story mode stages, but they usually don't show you how the stages were made, so instead of copying methods or minor details, people might resort to stealing whole ideas and claiming originality by putting some small spin on it. I literally have not published a single stage in LittleBigPlanet 2 because I never get far enough to finish one. I usually just stare blankly at my screen for hours hoping that somehow, through osmosis perhaps, my ideas will flood the game universe, but that's a personal problem. LittleBigPlanet 2 is great, and if you've always wanted to have a shot at making your very own game, this is a great start. As a wise man once eloquently said, LittleBigPlanet 2 isn't even a game, it's a fucking game engine.